Hello again, and thanks for watching our show. I'm Harry Greenberger. I'm the host of this show, and today our guest is a longtime friend of our organization, Marjorie Esman, who is the executive director of the Louisiana ACLU. And Marjorie, welcome again to our show.
It's always a pleasure, Harry. Thank you.
And our organization, as Secular Humanists and the American Civil Liberties Union, have a number of areas which we share in common, but not necessarily everything. But one of the major areas where we fight battles together has to do with the constitutional separation of government and religion, and it is an ongoing battle which you can read about almost regularly in the newspapers. Well, Marjorie, what's happening in Louisiana these days?
Well, there's a lot happening in Louisiana, as always. I'm proud to say that we recently had a very significant victory in a court case that we were fighting on behalf of a prisoner who was a member of the Nation of Islam, and the prison had refused to allow him access to the Final Call newspaper, which is essential sacred text to him in order for him to be able to practice his religion. And they didn't have a good reason for denying it. They said that it would induce violence, but in fact there's no violent content whatever in the newspaper, and it was pure prejudice, racial prejudice and religious prejudice. It was a religion that the prison officials didn't like. And so we very recently won a very significant court victory on behalf of this man, who will now be able to receive the religious publication of his choice. Was this in the state prison? Yes, yes, in Louisiana. And you know, it's one of those things that's really sad that that public officials have the power to impose their idea of what they want religion to be on other people, so it's something that that we're very proud of. Now, the state has said that they're going to appeal this. They may. We still think we'll win in the end.
But now, was the legal basis for your position was that that a government has to be non-discriminatory among religions?
That the government can't interfere in religion at all, and you know, if this man had wanted, you know, the Secular Humanist newspaper, we would have fought just as hard for that.
Or if they wanted to bring in a Bible,
whatever. That's right. That's right. But this was a religion. It's the Nation of Islam. It's a little bit controversial, and prison officials didn't like it, and they imposed their idea of what religions they wanted expressed within the prison on this man who wanted nothing more than just to, you know, follow the religion of his choice.
Is this now going to be put to rest, or is someone going to appeal it?
Well, the state has said they'll appeal it.
They're going to appeal it.
They said they will, and you know, that's too bad, but that's okay. We'll win in the end.
Okay. What else is going on?
You know, and it's legislative season now. It's the spring of 2010, and we always say that the greatest risk to civil liberties in Louisiana is when the legislature is in session, and unfortunately, there they are in Baton Rouge doing mischief. And so we have an enormous agenda, as we always do, on issues that include but are not limited to religious-based issues. You know, they also include things that come from a sort of, I don't know, kind of government-imposed morality standpoint, which is not only about religion, it's about other things, but basically about religion intruding into people's personal lives in a way that it ought not to do.
Well, of course, you are what you're fighting for is civil liberties,
right? And
our organization is very supportive of civil liberties. For all people.
Absolutely.
And one legislative matter which you all lost out on.
Not yet.
Well, I'm looking at a big headline from the Times-Picayune that says, "Bill to liberalize gay adoption rights killed." Tell us what happened to that bill.
Well, before I explain it, I want to say that it was killed in a Senate committee, but there's a companion bill making its way through the House, and so that's why I say it's not dead yet. We've got another shot in a House committee. But this was a pair of bills that we had introduced with our partners, the Forum for Equality, to allow same-sex couples to adopt children in Louisiana. And there were two different bills. One would allow same-sex couples to go in just as married couples can now and say, we are, a partnership and we want to jointly adopt a child. The other would be to allow the partner of somebody who has already adopted a child to come in as a second parent, similar to what is now a step-parent adoption. Of course, you can only be a step-parent if you're married, and of course, same-sex couples can't marry, so the idea is that the partner could do what a step-parent can do now. So there are two different bills, but they would accomplish essentially the same goal, which is to put same-sex couples on the same footing as heterosexual married couples with respect to being able to adopt children.
So that the child then would legally have two parents, each one having the kind of rights that a parent would have. Is that?
Well, absolutely, and it would expand the number of available homes for children in the foster care system, because it would allow same-sex couples to go in together and say, we're a good home, we have lots of love to give to a child. Now they can't do that. So it would benefit many, many hundreds and perhaps thousands of children who are languishing in foster care because there aren't enough homes for them.
Now, at this Senate hearing, where the vote at this point went against this adoption policy, and I assume there were people there testifying for and against the passage. Who was opposing it?
It was unfortunately mostly people from the religious community. There was the Conference of Catholic Bishops, and there was somebody from the Southern Baptist Convention, the Louisiana Family Forum, the Alliance Defense Fund, which is a legal organization dedicated to defending religious interests. Those were, for the most part, the opponents. And it was really unfortunate, because what should have been an argument about providing homes for children turned into an argument about what it says in the Bible.
Well, and I also read in the newspaper, and I'm familiar with those entities which you just mentioned, but this says, taking the first steps toward having a more visible presence at sessions of Louisiana legislature, the Moral and Social Concerns Committee of the Louisiana Baptist Convention met in Baton Rouge. So here's another group that is going to be opposing many of the civil rights that you and I would support.
Absolutely, absolutely, and they have a view of society that is based not really even on the Bible, but on their interpretation of the Bible. Because of course there are a lot of religious people who don't see things the same way that they do. We have people in the Catholic community who work with us very closely, whose vision of what the Bible says does not comport with what the Southern Baptists think it says. They think that the Bible is much more charitable than what the social conservatives think. So of course it isn't really even based on the Bible. It's based on one particular interpretation of the Bible. And of course, anyway, biblical views have no place in state legislation in any event, no matter whose vision it is.
They have no place because of the United States Constitution.
That's right. That's right. And there was some horror when the members of the religious community were testifying that these were bad bills because of biblical principles. I mean, they may think they're bad, and they may have reasons for thinking they're bad, but obviously the Bible has no place in the legislative process, but there it was.
Well, and outside of Louisiana, there are many battles of this sort going on, and one which our side lost was a war memorial cross out in the desert. And the Supreme Court said that this cross was not necessarily a religious symbol, and they allowed it to stand, that it was not in violation of the Constitution. Now, what kind of, and I think it was a 5-4 decision, but what kind of thinking would say that a cross is not a religious symbol?
Well, of course I agree with you. And it's very unfortunate, and it kind of leads to the secularization of religious symbols, which actually has already been going on for a long time through other Supreme Court decisions in which they ruled many years ago that a menorah is not